This is the American Forces Vietnam Network.
The end of an era. Flashback. In May and June of 1970, the AFVN crew produced two Keith L. Ware award-winning specials. Anything You Want to Know About Drugs But Don't Want to Ask, and Cambodia, 60 Days. These were excellent productions, and the awards were for special broadcast achievement.
News compiled from major commercial and military news sources.
It's 6 p.m. In the top of the news, the United States has called on the North Vietnamese to come up with a list of American prisoners held in Laos, as well as a date and place for their release. And U.S. sources in Saigon say that in the meantime, final American troop withdrawals will be delayed. Earlier, the Communists announced that they will free over the weekend the last 138 Americans held in Vietnam, and they asked the U.S. to pull its remaining troops out at the same time. Sunday would be 3 days ahead of the March 28th deadline for U.S. withdrawal and final prisoner releases. But a North Vietnamese spokesman added that 7 American servicemen and 2 civilians reported captured in Laos would not be released this weekend. The U.S. claims Hanoi is responsible for the return of American prisoners held in Laos. The Navy's top cost cutter has regained the job he lost in 1971 after testifying about weapons contract negotiations. The Navy announced today that Gordon Rule will return to his former post. Rule was transferred out of the position in 1971 after he testified before a Senate panel on Navy contracts with Grumman Aerospace Corporation and Litton Industries. The Navy claimed Rule had disobeyed an order not to comment on the negotiations. John McCone, the former director of the CIA, now a director of the International Telephone and Telegraph, testified today in hearings on IT&T's role in political affairs of Chile. CBS newsman George Herman reports.
McCone told the senators he thought it wrong to intervene in the presidential elections of any country, but once the presidential election in Chile had been held and had been thrown into the parliament to decide between Marxist Salvador Allende, who had a slight lead but no majority, and 2 conservative candidates, that was a different story. McCone was among various ITT officials asked by company president Janine to offer $1 million in help to various agencies in Washington, including his old hangout, the CIA.
What he told me at that time was that he was prepared to put up as much as $1 million in support of any government plan that was adopted by the government for the purpose of bringing about a coalition of the opposition to Allende.
McCone said when he was director of the CIA, he quickly rejected all such offers of money. George Herman, CBS News, Washington.
Russian sources say the Soviet law that imposes a tax on immigrants with higher education has been suspended. The report of the indefinite suspension of the tax has been confirmed by Soviet officials. However, they indicate the law will not formally be repealed, just not enforced. A majority of U.S. congressmen threatened to vote against a proposed Soviet-American trade agreement if the law was not repealed. Tanks and troops have driven 5,000 Argentinian policemen out of a barricaded headquarters complex occupied during a protest for higher wages. Army reports from the city of La Plata say 1 soldier was killed and several other persons injured in the assault earlier today. The wage protest involved some 40,000 police officers in 6 of Argentina's 23 provinces. The men holed up in the La Plata headquarters gave up their occupation when troops opened up with gunfire and tear gas. Panama's foreign minister says his government will take the issue of control of the canal zone to the United Nations General Assembly. Earlier today, U.S. Ambassador John Scali cast the 3rd American veto in UN history to kill a Security Council resolution urging the United States to conclude a new treaty with Panama. Panama is demanding that the United States turn over control of the canal, and the Security Council voted 13-1 in support of a new treaty. The United States cast the only dissenting vote. Scali claimed the UN should not be involved in what he called a bilateral issue concerning Panama and Washington. Sources in Washington suggest an unarmed Air Force plane attacked by Libyan jets earlier today may have been on an electronic intelligence mission. U.S. authorities say only that the 4-engine C-130 transport-type plane was on an unspecified military mission over the Mediterranean, but other sources claim there would be nothing secret about a normal cargo or passenger flight. Officials say the fighters missed their target and the plane returned to its base in Athens. Finally in the news, a federal grand jury has indicted 13 Indians for carrying supplies to Indians occupying the South Dakota hamlet of Wounded Knee. The Las Vegas panel charged the Indians with 2 counts each of violating federal anti-riot laws. And that's AFVN News to the Hour. Army Specialist Bob Morecook reporting.
News compiled from major commercial and military news sources.